Ain't nothing better in land. Ain't nothing better in land. Say the drunk obnoxious Georgia.
But, ooh, I lost my train of thought.
It was all good though. Go back and watch the last stream, and you'll get the gist of it.
Yes, or check us out on YouTube. Just search us there; you'll find us. We do want to remind you guys before we get started about a couple of things we got going on. Like we've been talking about, BetUS, if you use our link, 125% bonus, 30 risk-free bets. Make some money with us this week. And the second thing we want to remind you about is our ASW giveaway. This is the Hunker Vodka, the official NIL vodka of the Classic City Collective. ASW is made by dogs, founded by dogs, great company, great people, great product. All you have to do, follow our Twitter, our Instagram, ASW on Instagram, tag a friend. You're in the running. You got to click 3 buttons and hit an @. That's it. So get yourself a handle of that Hunker Vodka. We'll be pulling names on October 6th at midnight. I will announce the winner then. I feel like I'm forgetting something.
BetUS.
No, talked about them.
Oh shit. I think that's it, right?
I think so. All right. Obviously, we're talking about all of the great Week 5 games that we've got going on. A lot of ranked matchups. But before we get into that, how's your week been and what are you drinking?
Oh, week's been flying by for the most part. We had a pep rally at school today. It's our middle school's homecoming game, which apparently nobody else in the city does. And I can kind of understand why, because my ears are still ringing from that. It was 6 hours later. Yeah, I mean, it was fun though. My oldest son, who goes to school with us, was able to get involved in one of the games they were playing. He didn't win, but he came close. He did the second best of all the sixth graders in that, and he's going against the oak trees or redwoods or whatever that we have as eighth graders. So he did well there, but came up a little bit short. But drinking wise, I just got a Diet Arnold Palmer. I am all out of everything, and if I could find a bottle or a handle of the ASW Hunker whiskey, I would definitely be getting that if I could, if it was near us. I'll be looking for it though.
Yeah, for sure. I think they're going to start distribution here soon as yeah, no, I mean this Hunker vodka is brand new, just released. I think you can only get it at an ASW location right now, but if you win the giveaway, you could get it wherever you're at. We will find a way to get it to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but how about you? How's it going?
Man, work today was kind of wild. It's, I don't like to talk too highly of myself, but I've been doing what I do for long enough that I've got a lot of tricks, and I know what I'm doing, and it's very rare that I have to dump all of the bags out, or all of the tricks out of my bag to get something to work. Today was one of those days.
Damn it, you did. Damn it, you did it.
Yeah, like don't get me wrong, our customer sprinkler system's back up and running, but it's kind of one of those days where I'm glad I know what I do, but at the same time I'd have been home like 3 hours earlier if I had no clue what I was doing.
See what we were talking about before. If people have no to low expectations of you, you can never let them down.
And work is one of the very few places where I have very high expectations. And it's because of how good I am at my job. But got home, man, the county just opened a brand new disc golf course 3 minutes from my house.
Ooh, that's dangerous.
That's dangerous. I went and played this afternoon with a bunch of friends. Great time, great course. Shout out Chatham County for actually doing something in a fairly timely manner. think it was like February or March when the idea was ever even brought up, and Mike just got on the beach. There we go.
I was trying to change it to something to troll someone, but it did not work. So never mind. Nope, I got Bullard crunching Marvin Harrison still. Sorry.
I mean, you can still have that because Ohio State's still talking about it.
Oh, we're gonna go in on Ohio State a little bit more later, but yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean the fact that Chatham County, like, this idea was brought up in February, and they did like a little trial run, small situation over there, and then at the end of September, like, there's a full on course. I am shocked that Chatham County actually did something in a timely manner.
I was gonna say to even move that quickly is not something that I've had experience with in anything in this county.
I
Schools,
will
government,
say
all that.
that there was a lot of outside of the county pressure. A good friend of
Mm,
mine, actually the guy that came on for our Peach Bowl preview, Adam.
mm.
He was the one kind of being the facilitator with the county. He doesn't work for the county, but he was like pushing them along and holding their hand to get it up and going. So that was,
Hell yeah.
yeah.
Where's that at?
So if you take a right out of my driveway, just go until you're on the very south end of the island, which is
Okay.
which is like a mile and a half.
Damn, that's nice.
Yeah, like theoretically, if I got too drunk playing, I could walk. I'd probably just call Kelsey, but I could walk.
You could, why not?
Yeah, no, it's super cool. I'm glad I was able to get out there and play before we recorded tonight. But I am very excited to record this episode. Um, do you want to go ahead and get into a little bit of the Auburn stuff?
Yeah, man, let's go. There's a lot to get into.
Yeah, I initially actually intended to not put a whole lot in here, and surprise, guys, we don't actually have a guest tonight. We reached out to multiple Auburn writers and never heard back. So
Scared. No.
it just kind of is what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe if more of you guys followed us on Twitter, we wouldn't have that problem. But it is what it is. Um,
Not, but it's gonna change now that we have that contest going, hopefully.
yeah,
Gotta get those numbers up.
if you want a handle of Hunker vodka, follow us on Twitter. It's fairly
Please.
simple. Like,
Mhm.
it's not difficult.
No.
Um, so Georgia going to Jordan Hare Stadium as 14.5 point favorites, over under 46.5. For this rivalry, obviously the Deep South's oldest rivalry, been going on since what, 1896, 1892, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Georgia has won 6 in a row and 11 out of the last 13 against Auburn. Georgia also leads the all-time series 63, 57, and 8 back when they did do ties. I am
Oh, don't
actually
and
about.
never forget the first overtime game in SEC history was Georgia and Auburn, and when Uga tried to take a bite out of the Auburn player, and it was in Auburn. Go
Yes.
figure.
Um, Also, fun fact about that game: the winning quarterback of that was Mike Bobo.
Hmm.
Just a
Never
little
forget.
fun fact there.
Hmm.
Um, would you like to know the first time this game was not played in late October or early December or early November?
The last time it was, gosh, was
Or
it?
better yet, how many times has this game not been played in October or November?
I'm only gonna, I'm gonna go once.
Fun fact: this game has never been played.
Oh, oh,
Okay, the very first game was February of 1892.
the weather probably was better for that than it's gonna be Saturday.
Yeah, this game has been played earlier in the year than October 24th. One time it'll be this Saturday. So this is my second annual talk about this. Fuck you, Gus. It's all your
Yeah,
fault.
Fuck you, Gus.
It's all your fault.
You weren't going to be there long term anyway. Why did you give a shit?
Yeah, you were on the hot seat the year after you made it to the title game. Like, calm down. Maybe stop trying to make decisions that last generations.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Ridiculous.
this season in particular, Georgia leads pretty much every notable team statistical category between the two. Georgia averages 41.5 points per game. Auburn is at 32. Georgia averages 496 yards per game. Auburn at 371. The Georgia defense is allowing 11.3 points per game, with the Auburn defense allowing 16 points per game. So as far as this Georgia team goes, really the only vulnerable spot that I see on the team is a secondary in the passing defense, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Got good news for you guys. Real good news. Auburn ranks 112th in passing offense.
That's not great. There's only 133 FBS teams, so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, not good.
No, no, that's
Below
awful.
average. That's way below average.
Um, let's take a fun term that our friends Will and Connor over at the Saturday Down South podcast use. That's basura.
I don't want to say because I don't want to sound like Peggy Hill trying to speak Spanish to
You don't have the southern accent to sound like Peggy Hill. You're fine.
Bas- basura.
So Peyton Thorne, Holden Greer, and Robbie Ashford combined to go 9 for 23 for 56 yards in a 27-10 loss at Texas A&M.
That is like Justin Fields numbers with the Bears this year. That's awful. That's
No,
three of
Justin Fields has had better games than that.
yeah, that's fair. But, oh
Justin
my
Fields has
gosh.
definitely had better games than that. That's, you know, last year, I've made the joke multiple times. Last year when I was at the Auburn game, like I had a running tally in my head of if he was going to go, like Robbie Ashford was going to get close to 50% completion.
Mhm.
Um, 9 for 23 is closer to 33% than 50.
That I mean, uh, and then even I mean, talked about it a little bit a couple days ago, but Peyton Thorne, he ain't him. He ain't that guy.
No, he is not any form of him.
Doesn't even identify as him.
Okay, you could combine all three of these quarterbacks and they are not him.
No,
Like this
no.
is I like what would Auburn give to have Bo Nix back?
Oh my. That's what I was thinking about right now. If they would be way better off. I mean, granted, the skill position talent isn't quite there, and it's definitely not what it is at at Oregon. But again, Bo Nix was able to make stuff happen there. I mean, remember, I mean, when Bo Nix played against Oregon and Justin Herbert, what in 2019,
19.
he as a true freshman he looked good, and it was that team was pretty bare even at that point. So yeah, man.
That's I would love to find a way to poll Auburn fans and find out what the average person would be willing to give to have Bo Nix back.
I wonder if he cursed them on the way out. I know it's a family legacy thing there, but could they come back and point to them running Bo Nix out of town and I don't know, it turned into something way later down the line, like with the Lions, everything kind of comes back to them. With Bobby Lane, the last good quarterback they had before Matt Stafford. I mean, they hadn't won. I mean, they've won one playoff game in 60s since like 1957 or whatever. So it's there's a curse of Bobby Lane there. Maybe there's going to be a curse of Bo Nix, at least at the quarterback position at Auburn. Maybe.
So Auburn does rank 17th in passing defense, although they do not do well in stopping the run, coming in at 72nd in the country. So bottom half there.
Well, and you got to look at with the like who has Auburn played so far this year? Obviously, Texas A&M. Connor Wigman's out for the rest of the year. Yeah, I don't know
Yep.
if you saw that, but
Texas A&M
Cal.
quarterback getting injured and sat for the rest of the year.
Mhm.
Haven't seen that story except the last 2 seasons.
No, and what they played Cal at Cal, and they didn't look good there. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't put much stock into that those passing numbers. They really have not played anybody that has a pulse uh,
Yep.
at quarterback at least. So
Yeah. And allowing 134 rushing yards per game, and their schedule has consisted of two Power Five teams in Cal, who was only admitted to the ACC due to academic purposes, and Texas A&M without their starting quarterback and the threat of a passing game.
yeah. Hmm.
Um, we saw last week that Auburn's defense does not do very well when quarterbacks are able to move the pocket. That's essentially all Max Johnson could do was roll out and throw passes. So
Hmm.
I not only expect to see, but I really hope to see an emphasis early on the run game.
Hmm.
Like pound it early. Even if you get a couple of three and outs on your first couple of drives. Like put an emphasis on running the ball so you can get those play action shots off of that because they're going to have to bring the safeties down to stop the run game.
Hmm.
And I want to see so many bootlegs. Like
Yes.
I want it to feel like I'm walking into a Cavender's with all the bootlegs I see.
Hmm.
And
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And I'm sorry. You can go ahead.
no. Go ahead.
No, I agree with that 100%. We need just need to get it going. You got to impose your will.
And I don't even care if they succeed at imposing their will, but you bring those safeties down, you roll Carson out of the pocket, and it looks like Ladd is going to be a go for Saturday.
Let's go. Let's go.
And you know what Ladd loves to do at Jordan Hare Stadium?
Embarrass the War Eagle Tigers.
Uh, big touchdowns. He
Yes.
loves big touchdowns.
Hmm.
He likes to be able to catch the ball at the 20 and walk in because there ain't nobody close to him.
Yep.
And if you get those safeties to bite hard on a play action or a bootleg, Ladd or Arian or Makai Muse is going to be open all the way down the field.
Man, this is going to be the healthiest that wide receiver room has looked all year, and then obviously Brock is still there. If they're putting an emphasis on getting him the ball as well, like I feel much better going into this game this week than maybe especially after the South Carolina game. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling confident.
You know when I would feel a lot better about this game?
What's up?
Week before Thanksgiving.
Yep. Hmm. I don't want to be sweating watching this game.
No! No!
Yeah, it's
um,
still ridiculous, but yeah, we've beat that horse to
no.
death.
No. We beat it to death. We need to beat the dead horse. Somebody call Gus and
They
just
yeah.
live stream this podcast to him where we're
Hmm.
talking about how awful he is for complaining to the point that a game that's been played longer than his grandparents have been alive moved to not just 30 days before, but 40 plus days before it has been played since 1894. That was the first time it was played in November, and since 1894, it's been played. The earliest it's been played is October 24th. Last year, it was still played in October.
Barely, but yeah,
Barely, but it's still
yeah.
played in October. But thanks to Gus complaining, we get the Deep South's oldest rivalry in September.
Yeah. And not to mention this is only our second SEC game of the year. Second. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Disgusting. Before we get to the rest of that stuff, I did want to point this out when we were talking about I know we're gonna get into Mike Bobo and stuff like that in a little bit here, but I sent this in the group chat before, but yesterday, not yesterday, but on Monday when we were talking about the offense and comparing it to 2022 or 2021, or no, I guess it was 2022. Um, Do you know how crazy comparable that Stetson's stats were to Carson's through the first 4 games?
Almost identical, wasn't it?
Yeah. So like Stetson Bennett has through his first 4 games in 2022. Granted, they played a little bit stiffer competition because you had Oregon and South Carolina in there
Was
as well.
Oregon
But
stiffer competition because they blew the shit out of Oregon too?
yeah, but I mean, just by name at least. I mean, they're Oregon's a way better team now, but I mean, they still had Bo Nix at that point. We wanted him to be a Heisman, or at least go to New York last year. But so Stetson Bennett for the first 4 games last year, 92 of 124 for 1,224 yards and 5 touchdowns through the air. Carson Beck through his first 4 games, 93 completions, so just one more, although he's passed a few more times. 93 of 128 for 1,184 yards and 6 touchdowns. And he has a couple running as well, like Stetson did as well. But it's the same thing. Essentially the
Almost
same thing.
identical.
Mhm.
Before
Pretty
we
much. Sorry.
before we get into the stuff that we would like to see in this game, I did pull up Kirby's quote as of yesterday um, about the injuries. So
Mhm.
he did not commit to a status for Michael Williams or Javon Bullard for the game. He said those guys are probably going to be really close. Kendall is also going to be really close to being ready. Um,
Okay.
Michael and Javon both did scout team work. They both ran on the sideline. He said they both looked better, but he was going to look more at it during the coach's tape washing period, and same with Ladd. But that was as of yesterday. There were reports today that said Ladd was probable for the game.
Awesome. That's what we're talking about right there. Okay. What
Yeah,
did you say about Bullard?
he's kind of in the same holding pattern as Michael. It,
Okay.
that Kirby didn't want to commit to anything, but he said they looked better. Um,
Okay. Okay.
because, you know, hold on, we got something else to talk about before we get into what we want to see in the game. You good?
Yeah, no, it sounded like someone was gonna fall through my ceiling.
Oh, oh,
They're good, I think.
okay.
We'll see.
No blood dripping from the ceiling yet.
Not yet. That's usually later in the week.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we are coming up to a Friday the 13th here in a few weeks, so you never know.
Ooh, yep. Spooky season.
You know, I've gotten into 2 car accidents on Friday the 13th.
Ew. Of course.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. That's like I'm superstitious. I don't really care about Friday the 13th, but a couple years ago I looked back and I was like, man, I had 2 car accidents where I almost died on Friday the 13th. Like maybe
Mm.
there's something to it.
Yeah,
Just
definitely
maybe.
take that off. Take that off in a couple weeks, or at least
Good
walk to
news.
wherever you need to go. Oh
I don't
yeah,
work
Friday.
Fridays.
There you go.
There we go.
There you
Um, so you put this in here, so I'll let you take this one.
go. So is this a revenge game for Mike Bobo against Auburn?
I think it very well could be.
Mhm.
I think a big part of why he did not do well under Brian Harsin is because Brian Harsin's an offensive guy
Yeah.
and wanted to have his hands into that pot more. But
Mhm.
if they come out like they did last week and have those different look plays, actually look like they know how to do something other than throw a ball behind the line of scrimmage, I could truly see Georgia putting up. I mean, I really think 48 to 56 points is not unrealistic for this game.
Yeah. I'm with you. I don't know if I'm sure there's not really any goodwill between Hugh Freeze and Kirby Smart, so it's not going to be one of those situations where he's going to lay it off if they're rolling. He's
Well,
going
I
to want to
mean,
make a statement.
the dumbest Kirby Smart's defense looked at Alabama was those 2 years against Ole
Yeah.
Miss.
hmm So he's not going to want to take that for granted. I mean, granted, they're not playing the same offense that they don't have Swag Kelly over there. Swag Kelly's not walking through the doors in all or at Auburn. So
And if he did, he'd probably get carried out in handcuffs. It's his history at
yes, school zone. You can't have an AK-47 there. Everyone knows that.
well, I was more talking about fighting.
Oh, that too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many different ways you can go with swag, but yeah,
All right. So I don't remember who exactly sent it to me. I think it was you.
yeah,
But the
yeah.
Hugh Freeze baptism thing.
Ooh. What? Okay, so apparently this was. I mean, this happened a couple weeks ago. I think it was the begin, like probably week two ish for them. Like September 12th is when the first posts were with it. But I think it was a student organization at Auburn. I don't know the name of it. I didn't really look too deep into it. But they had a thing at the basketball arena, and then they went out to I guess it's the river or the lake over there at Auburn, and they baptized over 100 different kids there. So they're like basketball players, football players, and just others that wanted to do that. But Hugh Freeze got in the water and helped baptize one of the football players. I can't remember who. I think it was a safety. I can't remember his name. I could always go back and look real quick. But that that guy,
And so first and foremost, I do want to say that good on these kids for getting baptized. Good
yeah,
on them for
absolutely.
finding religion, believing in a higher power, all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But Hugh Freeze is not the guy to do it.
He's not the guy to lead you to the promised land or to
The
an
promised land
enlightening.
in his eye is burner phones and strippers,
Hmm.
as we
It's incredible.
saw a few
Yeah.
years ago.
Mhm. Well, we remember how tone deaf he was before. Didn't he have some issue at Liberty as well? Like it wasn't.
It
I
was
now don't even
something where
remember what
he
it
like
was.
tried to have inappropriate contact with a staffer or something, but nothing ever came of it.
Yeah, and he just like poo-pooed it, or like yeah, he just kind of brushed it off like it was nothing. Didn't apologize, and or even in his or I should say in his apology, it was a non-apology and made it worse.
Yeah.
He's very spatial awareness, tone deaf. I mean, whatever you want to say about him, or he's not very self-aware is what I'm trying to get at. That is him, and having him be the person that baptizes you seems like you could have done a lot better, especially in the Bible Belt that we're in.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is a guy that's been followed by controversy for inappropriate activity at his last two head coaching stops, first
Hmm.
and foremost. He got fired from Ole Miss with cause, caused them to be in a bowl ban and almost the death sentence
Hmm.
with college football because of the craziness he was doing with all sorts of scandalous females in Oxford, first and
Yeah.
foremost.
Hmm.
Then he had that inappropriate contact with a staffer at Liberty, which was just 2 years ago. And then the University of Auburn has I don't even know, they go on a witch hunt
Yeah, yeah, they do.
with Brian Harson to find anything not above board in his life to fire him for. Find nothing. Make wild accusations. Try and ruin this man's family. Find nothing. And then they hire a guy that is known to just be an awful person when it comes to women. Talk about family. Then he goes out and baptizes some people. You want to talk about self righteous and unaware? Like, I don't care how good of a football coach you are. To have your history and then Auburn to come in like, oh yeah, we're a family. We like to have people that do the right thing. Then why the hell did you hire Hugh Freeze? Why?
Dude, I pulled it up. You know what his situation was at Liberty? It was in 2015, so it was a little bit further back than I had even realized it was. It's
It couldn't have been. He was
literally.
coaching at Ole Miss in 2015.
Oh no, she was. Oh, I'm sorry. She was Liberty's 2015 senior class president. I'm sorry. It was
Okay,
2022. My bad. I was looking at the wrong date.
so last year.
It is it is literally the same thing that Mel Tucker did.
Yep.
So it's the same thing, and they have the DMs. She has the DMs to prove it. So it
Yeah.
says, um, she describes herself as okay, the class president, sexual assault victim, outed Freeze's alleged DMs to her very public Twitter thread. Um, She said, "Why is the head coach at Liberty University DMing me during and after my lawsuit with Liberty at almost midnight?" I think part of it was like he was trying to say like you were making shit up or whatever. But she was adamant about her experience and everything, as she should be. But the head coach is DMing a public rape victim, someone who went through a lawsuit with Liberty, and trying to defame her or whatever, while he was still working there. So yeah, yeah,
You know what? This is one of those situations where you look at Michigan State and say, you did the right thing.
yeah, mhm,
Absolutely, you did the right thing. You turn around and look at Auburn, ironically, where Michigan State's quarterback went this offseason, and say, what the hell are you doing?
mhm,
With everything that we just talked about. And then Hugh Freeze has the lack of self awareness to just be like, you know what? I feel like I need to be at this stadium church service and then go baptize some people.
right.
What?
It's incredible. Granted, okay, so he wasn't hitting on her, but he was basically just kind of just criticize, really going at her, and again, very, very tone
And
deaf. Not, it was awful,
you
bad.
know, I'm as far as Liberty goes, it's a private university,
Hmm.
but they put out Joel Osteen wannabes.
Hmm.
Like it is the West Point for people. Like it's the Christian West Point. It puts out people that are super high and mighty, think they know what they're doing, but in reality, all they do is tell you what somebody else told them and have no clue what they're actually talking about.
Yeah.
And then they hired Hugh Freeze as part of his redemption arc, where he managed to go right back under in the middle of it, and then get hired by a university that tried to find a scapegoat for their last head coach just because they didn't like him.
Yeah.
Like, shame on Auburn, shame on Hugh Freeze for thinking that it was a good idea for him to go out and baptize some people. Like, maybe wash your own hands before you try and wash someone else's soul. Maybe.
Mhm.
Instead of having blood, poop, and mud all over yourself and trying to help somebody else. Like,
Yeah.
maybe fix yourself. Just maybe.
Yeah. Ugh. I'm honestly surprised they didn't go after Urban Meyer if they're gonna get awful human being as head coach. At least he's actually won stuff.
All Auburn cares about is beating Alabama, and Hugh Freeze has done that.
Hmm.
But if they wanted a head coach that could beat Alabama every few years, they should have just kept Gus Malzahn because he did it more than any other head coach in the SEC.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Auburn, not very intelligent, not going to win this football game. I'm going to go ahead and give you my pick here. Georgia
Okay.
covers the 14.5. The over hits,
Oh.
and this is an embarrassment for the University of Auburn, just like their head coach.
Yeah. I am with you 100% on that. I tried not to look at your picks beforehand. I'm with you fully on that. I think this is going to be a beatdown. Like this is again, I feel this is the most confident I've been about them, about Georgia and the spread in a while.
Yeah,
At least this season.
you're giving me 14 and a half points
Hmm.
against a team that only scored 14 against Cal?
Yeah. Well, I will say, since I originally wrote this down, the point, the total went down a point.
So
Or
you're giving me 45 and a half?
no, it's 46 and a half right now, but I think it was at 47 or 47 and a half before.
Oh, I think the total for this game is closer to like 55, 60.
Yeah, I feel comfortable with that as well.
We've already given our picks, but what are some things that you would like to see in the game?
Um, Again, I want to see a more consistent pass rush again, considering how bad these quarterbacks are, for Auburn. I think that's something that's definitely doable. Again, we talked about before, they trotted out three quarterbacks out there. None of them did squat for them. So I think that will, it did, fix any kind of like statistical woes that they may have that way, which again, the defense hasn't playing they haven't been playing god awful. They have been getting better, although they did allow 21 last week. But we talked about that a little bit a few days ago. But that, and I do want to see, the running back room do some, Deshaun Edwards. I want him. go over 100 yards. I want him to, assert dominance. I want this to be a beatdown. I want no, all the people that are talking about Georgia not being the number one team in the country, arguing for, I think Josh Pate put Ohio State at number one, at least in his rankings. I don't get it. I want to put that, I want to put that to bed. I just want to put it to bed. I want a dominating game on every side of the ball, offense, defense, special teams, all of that. Leave no doubt.
Yeah, no, I agree. I will say that I actually agree with Josh Pate on most things, so I'm not going to say anything poorly about him here.
Yeah, no, me too.
Um,
But that one was eyebrow raising.
yeah, I agree with that. Biggest thing I want to see the offensive line be able to protect Carson Beck
Hmm.
long enough to get some of these deep shots because Auburn's defensive line not good. I would say honestly below average. You should be able. I mean, they have a great linebacker. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Asante Samuel is that his last name?
Is it his son? Because no, no, I'm
I don't know.
curious.
Asante something.
Yeah,
Asante Edwards. That sounds right.
yeah, I think that's right.
Edwards. Asante Edwards, phenomenal linebacker, possibly one of the top five inside linebackers in the SEC this year. Phenomenal.
Hmm.
That's the only person they have on defense. So if you're able to protect Carson Beck, you can get some of these downfield shots. I really want to see Mike Bobo put an emphasis on running to the outside to
Yeah.
attempt to negate Asante Edwards, and then bootleg passes. Even if you have to bring Brock or Oscar or a running back over in part of that bootleg package to give him some protection, because I think Asante is probably going to be spying the quarterback quite a bit because of how bad the run defense is.
Hmm.
Um, but just putting emphasis on explosive plays. Like personally, I think this is going to be a game that Georgia wins so handedly that if you have a couple three and outs because you're throwing 20-yard passes on all three plays, okay,
Yeah, we can live with that.
yeah, yeah, I'm good. I
And
just
granted, this is probably the best defensive line that they faced so far this season as well. So I mean, it's going to be a test, especially the first road game as well.
I don't know. South Carolina's defensive line, as of the Georgia game, really turned it around. I think,
Hmm.
especially if you look back at what they did against Mississippi State and Woody Marks there. Because
Yeah,
even starting last year, I'm really high on Woody Marks and his ability, but they had a lot of tackles for loss against him
yeah.
in Mississippi State last week. So I think South Carolina's defensive line,
Hmm.
like person to person, is probably better than Auburn's, but I'm not sure how much better.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, no, I don't want Carson to feel pressure a single time this week. That's my biggest thing. That's what I want
Hmm.
to see. I
Yeah, we
want him
want
to
to
be
feel
on
better about this
7 on
offensive line.
7 practice.
Yes, yeah. Want to see it happen.
All right. We just talked about South Carolina. We're going to go ahead and move on to their game this week. South Carolina is going to Tennessee, who are 12-point home favorites, over under at 63. So I'm sure most of you guys didn't forget, but if you have, South Carolina ended Tennessee's playoff hopes last year by winning this game 63-38 and running out of fireworks in Williams-Brice Stadium.
Will it
That
be?
was one of my favorite moments of the 2022 season.
Yeah. Favorite non-Georgia win of the entire year.
Oh, absolutely. I do still absolutely hate that Hendon Hooker got hurt in this game. I hate
Yeah.
it.
Hmm.
Especially because as part of the Tennessee Titans team, if he was healthy right now, they would probably actually be able to throw a forward pass and have a competent offense, but that's beside the point.
He's on the Lions.
Oh, I thought he got drafted. One of those
Mm-mm.
light blue
That
teams that
was
doesn't win
that was
anything.
Mayo boy Levis.
Ah, right, right, right. One of those light blue teams that has never won
Yeah.
anything.
Oh damn. Changes this year. Changes this year.
Oh. All right. So Tennessee does have the edge on points per game and yards per game on offense, but has also allowed 9 less points per game than South Carolina. I will say South Carolina has. I don't even think it's an argument. South Carolina's played much tougher competition than Tennessee has at this point. Um,
Yes.
I mean, South Carolina has played North Carolina, which looks to have a very good defense and offense this year. Played Georgia, who obviously most of you guys know about. While Tennessee's toughest game this year has probably been Austin P. Um,
Well, Florida, and they lost that one.
Florida, Florida. I
Yeah.
did, yeah, yeah. But I would put Florida's defense probably on par or below North Carolina's defense,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is a shocking statement that I just made. I never expected to say those words out loud this season.
Yeah. That's been their best unit, like for sure. Besides Pearsall making just ridiculous catches, but we'll get into
Hey,
Florida later.
I told y'all last year
Yeah.
Ricky Pearsall was that guy. It's a shame that
He,
he's on that gross team in Gainesville.
mhm.
I mean, even if you were in our week one watch party where we had Bobby on, I was like, Ricky Pearsall is obviously the best guy on this team. Why is there not emphasis to get him the ball more? And he tried to argue with me. But
Bob, Bobby, silly.
back to South Carolina and Tennessee. So South Carolina and Tennessee are actually tied in turnover margin at +1, both of them. The biggest difference is Tennessee's turnovers came against the powerhouses of Virginia, Florida, and UTSA. While South Carolina's turnovers came against Georgia.
Yeah.
I, I think there's a considerable difference there. South Carolina's second string players did have one turnover against Furman, but
Hmm.
when I don't really think that counts if you're not having your starters out there towards the end of the game. But
No. No.
um, South Carolina has been considerably better at not throwing interceptions this year than they were last year. I mean, Spencer Rattler had 2 incompletions in the first half against Georgia, and then last week against Mississippi State, I believe he only had 3 in the entire game.
Yeah,
So he's
Rattler's been doing much better since the beginning of the second half of last year for sure. Like he's not quite lived up to the hype, but I mean he's a solid quarterback. He's playing himself into like a day two spot in the draft next year.
I think you could easily make an argument that he's one of the either one or two in SEC quarterbacks this year.
Yeah, yeah, hmm yeah. Well, I mean, you won't get an argument out of me. I mean, KJ's up there when he's on.
When
Jaden Daniels is
KJ is
definitely up there when he's
trailing
on.
in a game,
Yeah.
KJ is a Heisman contender.
Hmm.
And I
You
love
just need to go
KJ
out there and
Jefferson.
say you just need to start the game saying KJ, they spotted A&M 30
7 points.
points. Well, yeah, two scores.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you guys have listened to us this offseason when we did our SEC programs as Marvel movies, I had Arkansas and that whole program as the original Captain America. One, because Sam Pittman helped build a lot of these programs, but
Hmm.
two, because no one hates Arkansas.
No.
Like, everybody loves Arkansas.
Hmm. We all want Arkansas to do well.
Yeah. Like, give me
Mhm.
an Arkansas win this week. Give me a close game against Alabama. Those are the things that I need.
I want them to just win in Jerry World. Like it has been really really tough for them there. Like it's considering Jerry Jones is an Arkansas alum, you'd think they'd I don't know they'd do a little bit better there in his
You
you know
think you
his
pump in some crowd noise, bring in some rain, leave the grass
yeah.
about a quarter inch too tall, all those things Tennessee
Hmm.
claimed Georgia did.
Yeah, exactly. You'd think so.
So South Carolina, I already said that. So I will say last week what um, Chris Phillips talked about he hoped they would do for the Georgia game, they actually did against Mississippi State. Brought in a couple of those true freshman offensive line, and they showed a lot of improvement last week. And I do think that running back Mario Anderson seems to be emerging as RB1 in Columbia. I just go back and watch that game last week.
Yeah.
against Mississippi State. I know Mississippi State's not good this year. I completely understand that. But Mario Anderson was like getting hit in the backfield and still getting 3 or 4 yards. He was getting hit 3 or 4 yards and getting 10. He's the kind of running back that South Carolina really needs to be able to lean on, especially if their offensive line can improve. For
Yeah.
this
So you
game,
go.
go ahead.
No, so okay. Never mind. You can go ahead. Sorry.
No, you good. You good. Um, for this game, I don't know who wins. Honestly, I do think Neyland Stadium is a tough stadium to play in for most teams. I do think that Tennessee probably has an overall talent advantage.
Hmm.
Their defensive line, granted, they did get most of these sacks against Virginia. At up until last week, led the country in sacks in going against a South Carolina offensive line that has a history of being pretty bad.
Yeah.
But I think in a duel of former 5-star quarterbacks, Spencer Rattler has the better day, and South Carolina, at minimum, covers that 12.5. I do think they could win, but I'm not confident in it. I think they cover the 12.5.
So since I originally wrote this, the spread has gone down to 12. Are you still good with that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's much
So
more of a one possession game.
yeah, it's tough. I've been going back and forth on it. I didn't write anything down as far as like my thoughts on it because I mean Tennessee's got revenge in their mind. Are they capable of actually pulling it off? I
And
don't
is
know.
there
12 points. 12 points is a lot,
12 points is a lot.
especially for a team that is potentially handicapped at quarterback. Because Joe Milton, looks good against, well, Austin Peay didn't look good necessarily, but
He looked good against Virginia. That's it.
yeah, which doesn't mean a whole lot. So I'm
And
gonna go with South Carolina. Sorry.
something interesting about this spread, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it just popped into my head.
Mm.
This spread's at 12. The Georgia spread's at 14.5. So
Oh,
Vegas thinks that the difference between Georgia and Auburn is only 3 points higher than Tennessee and South Carolina. I don't buy that for a second.
it's kind of insulting to be honest. It's more disrespect.
I don't I don't know if it's disrespect for Georgia or respect for Auburn or disrespect for South Carolina.
I'm gonna go with Georgia on that one. I don't know. That's just me. But all right. So as far as I go, I was starting to say that I'm not super confident in this, but I'm gonna go with South Carolina. Again, the 12-point dogs in this game. Again, not super confident in Joe Milton to win them a game. And again, 12 points is a lot especially for an SEC game, even if it is in Neyland.
And
And
they
again,
brought out they initiated dark mode, if you didn't know.
have they? I'm gonna have to look this up in a second, but you typically when Tennessee does their specialty jerseys, at least the last few years. I feel like it's been against Georgia, at least when they play Georgia and Knoxville, and it hasn't gone well.
I was about to ask, do you think they bring out the black jerseys again for Georgia, or do you think they wear the smoky grays?
Well, Smoky, they haven't won. I don't think they've won a game in Smoky Grays against Georgia, so they might if it turns out if they play well against South Carolina. I don't know how superstitious or little stitious they are, but I mean, if they do well against South Carolina, I think they'd have to go black, even though wear black against a team that actually has black in their color scheme. But okay,
Yeah, and no shade to the smoky grays because I actually do really like those uniforms. I hate the color
yeah,
orange,
yeah,
but the gray and orange looks good together. So absolutely no disrespect to the smoky
mm,
grays,
yeah,
but historically not great against Georgia.
hmm
Um, so I think are we both going South Carolina covers?
yeah. We're both going South Carolina covers. I'm not going to touch the over under on that.
No, God no.
63 is a lot too. I mean, I'm not going to do it officially, but if I had to say, I think it would go under. But I'm not putting it out on the graphic.
I agree. No, I agree. I do think that it's probably under,
Mhm.
but both of these defenses have the tendency to just let a couple big plays go, and if that happens, if you're
Mhm.
talking each defense gives up one big play, that's a 14-point swing. I think that
Yeah.
could easily happen. Um, you know what? While we're talking about big plays that have 14-point swings, we'll talk about Florida, Kentucky. Kentucky's 1-point favorite, over under 44. If you don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to 14-point swings, I'm referencing the fact that a few years ago, Kentucky left Tyree Cleveland uncovered against Florida for 2 touchdowns a couple years ago.
Mhm.
Completely no one covering him whatsoever. That led to them losing this game in an absolutely absurd way. If I remember correctly, I was driving back from somewhere watching this game on my phone and almost caused Kelsey to crash because I was screaming at Kentucky.
Was that the first game they had won in the swamp and by breaking that streak, or did they win one before that? I can't remember.
So they lost the games they left Tyree Cleveland uncovered.
Oh, okay.
They almost won back-to-back games versus Kentucky or versus Florida because they were up 14 points.
Mm,
Or they might have been up 10 and then gave up 2 touchdowns because why would you want to cover their best receiver? Like, that's just
right.
stupid.
Yeah.
Leave him open. I will say that last season Kentucky won this game 26-16 in the swamp, beat Florida at Florida, something that Tennessee has not been capable of doing since 2003. Just throwing a little bit more shade at Kentucky there, or Tennessee.
Yeah.
Um, Kentucky has won 2 in a row, although Florida has dominated the series, winning 31 in a row from Kentucky between 1987 and 2017. That's just
It's absurd.
insanity.
Yeah.
Um, Florida is 7-3 in the last 10 games against Kentucky, but this season Kentucky's averaging 38 points per game, Florida 27.8. Kentucky averaging 395 yards, 412 for Florida, and they have actually a very similar points allowed with Kentucky at 15.5 and Florida at 13.5. Doing a little bit of a stat dive here. Florida is top 15 in both passing and rushing defense coming into this game. Meanwhile, Kentucky is tied for 46th passing and 93rd rushing offense. On
Which
the
that is very surprising considering Devin Leary being the quarterback for them and then Ray
Ray
Davis being the
Davis.
running back. Like that's I can't comprehend how it's not come together yet.
So, I have recorded a few Kentucky games this season and gone back and watched them. I
Mhm.
will say, as Georgia fans, if you haven't watched Kentucky play, if you think Georgia's gotten off to bad or slow starts, go watch some Kentucky games
Mhm.
because they make Georgia look like last season's Georgia offense. It's been rough so far in the beginning of games. Um, I will say I still think a lot of it has to do with the offensive line. Throwing it back to our Puncher's Chance series where we talked to John Clay. Um, something we didn't mention with him, he votes for the AP poll.
Oh, okay. We need to get him on next week.
Yes, absolutely. Um, AP poll voter, writer for the Lexington Herald Leader. Is that what it was?
I
Leader?
think so because I had got it wrong before. Or Ledger
Is it Leader or Ledger? I thought whichever one we first said is
was
wrong.
wrong. Yeah.
So it's either Leader or Ledger. We're kind of stupid.
Kentucky, it's Kentucky.com. I knew
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Um, but when we talked about it with him, he said that the offensive line is still the biggest question mark on the team, which is kind of proven to be true at this point
Mhm.
because Kentucky is 61st in passing defense, which is top half of college football, and ninth in rushing defense. Kentucky is also 33 in sacks, while Florida has allowed 9 sacks through 3 games.
Ooh.
Um, in 3 games. I think I typed that out wrong. Pretty sure it's 4. They haven't had a bye week yet. Can, Florida's allowed 9 sacks in 4 games. Sorry about that, guys. Um, so, to me, this game comes down almost entirely to if Kentucky is able to shut down the run game and force Graham Mertz to win the game with his arm. And to be fair, he is capable of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
He has done it a couple times in his career where he has won the game by himself. The problem is he hasn't done it more than like 2 or 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
So if Florida has the run game stopped, lessened, I mean, they are, what did I say, top 15 in the country in rushing offense.
Mm-hmm.
If Kentucky can slow that down and force Graham Mertz into some 3rd and longs, Kentucky wins this game. And I have confidence in Kentucky to do it.
Yeah,
So
it doesn't sound like it.
I'm going to take them. It's as much confidence as it is hope that they are undefeated coming into that game in Athens next week, get ranked,
Mm-hmm.
and potentially College Game Day shows up. I think if Kentucky wins this game, they take Florida's number 23 spot. You got 1 versus 23 in Athens, 7 p.m. That is College Game Day written all over it.
Mm-hmm.
Fingers crossed, knocking on wood, Kentucky covers that 1 and wins this game.
All right, so I'm gonna go a little bit different. Not because I want to necessarily, because I'm like you, I'm not like super confident in either one, but I'm gonna take Florida in this, and that's again painful as all can be. But like you said, I'm ETN being the running back for this is really I mean, it's kind of a tie for most things for me, but ETN is like the best player on the field for either team, and they've been successful even knowing that with Graham Mertz and his limitations. So I'm gonna go with Florida. I don't feel good about it, but like you said, it's a pick 'em. They win, they cover, because they are 1 point underdog in this case. But that will help our case playing them or help them look better going into the cocktail party. So it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world for them to lose this game.
It's a
Yeah,
win-win. I just
yeah,
don't see Florida having a 1-loss record coming into the cocktail party, but I could see Kentucky being undefeated going into next week.
yeah, yeah. So officially, I'm gonna take Florida. Um, and that over under, I don't know, I can't remember if you said anything about it, but it being 44 seems about right. Again, if I don't feel confident, fuck it, I'm gonna go under 44. I'm gonna do it.
I also like the under, not enough to necessarily take it outright,
Mm.
but I don't think 24-17 is out of the question for this game.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
It's
I
one
don't
of those
feel, I
things
don't,
where you don't
yeah.
trust either team's offense near as much as you trust their defenses.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna go, I'll go under there. 44 seems about right, but yeah, like a 21-17 type deal. I think that's 44. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's gonna go under. I'm not a math guy, as we've talked about a lot.
While we're talking about not math guys, talking about the game at Ole Miss because Lane Kiffin can't read a clock. LSU -2.5 going to Oxford over under 67. I'll let you take this one because if I'm being honest, everybody, I didn't even really want to talk about it. Lane pissed me off so much last week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a ton to talk about either with it. I'm gonna steal this term from part of my take, and for anybody there's no crossover listeners there. This is like the ultimate loser leaves town game. We talked about at length on Monday or the last episode about Ole Miss, shitting the bed. LSU is definitely capable of doing the exact same thing. They did that against Tennessee last year. They did that against Texas A&M last year. They did
They
it
did that
against Florida
against
State.
they did that against Tennessee at home last year.
Yeah, Yes, and I mean that game was over like right away, and obviously they did it against Florida State to start the year. So is Ole Miss as good as Florida State? No, I mean we that proved it, last Saturday. But like I said, stats obviously don't matter because either team's capable of crapping the bed. I'm in this, so I don't know. I don't want to watch this. This doesn't seem fun. Um, it hurts me to be off the Ole Miss bandwagon, but like just last week just crushed me. I can't do it.
I, so I agree with you, but if to me, if Ole Miss had lost that game because of them throwing the ball deep, getting an interception, Quinshawn Judkins getting stopped on a 4th and 1, cool.
Yeah,
But Lane
yeah,
Kiffin substituting players in a late drive to potentially score and bringing it to a one possession game, like your coach gave up on you.
yeah.
That says all I need to know. LSU, I 2.5 is just absurd to me here. I do not trust Lane Kiffin in big games. I wouldn't trust Lane Kiffin to sink the 8 ball. I wouldn't trust him to hit the last shot in beer pong. I
Mhm.
wouldn't trust him to I don't know, hit a free throw at this point if there was some pressure on him. I think
Yeah.
LSU wins this game by double digits.
Yeah, I feel really good about that as well. I mean, it's definitely more than a 3-point game. I think if everything goes the way, if everybody plays up to their potential, I mean, LSU should win by double digits, like you said. Are you interested in the over under in this at all? If it being 67, would you touch that?
I'm not a degenerate enough to touch it with my money.
Yeah,
I am a lot more interested in the under than the
yeah.
over because 67 seems really high.
Mhm.
Um,
For
I
teams that
mean,
aren't Washington or USC.
34-21 seems like a realistic score for this game.
Yeah,
And that's well below the over there. So I don't, off the record, under.
yeah.
100% under.
Same, same.
All right. Notre Dame, 6-point favorites at Duke, over under 52.5. And Mike, I'll let you take this one because you did put a lot of work into these notes.
Yeah. So before we even get into the game, because the game itself, I don't know if anybody's in that. I mean, it should be a decent game considering how Duke has performed so far this year. But before we even get to it, we got to continue talking about how Lou Holtz just burying and bodying Ryan Day. We talked about it a little bit on the last episode, but I'm gonna read off the original quote that Lou Holtz said, and then say what how Lou responded to Ryan Day after Ryan Day essentially, and the post game interview it sounded like he wanted to fight an 86-year-old man. So,
I've
all
wanted
right,
to
so
fight an
here's
86-year-old man, but it's all been politicians, never a
yeah,
former head coach.
yes. hmm Not somebody like Lou Holtz. You can hate Lou Holtz for being at South Carolina and Notre Dame, but again, you guys will hear it here if you haven't really looked into it. But he's not wrong on anything he said, any critique that he said.
No.
So, all right. So what? So what? Sweet Lou said here. So you look at Coach Day, and I coached at Ohio State under Woody Hayes. We won a national championship when I was there. I'm proud of that. However, he lost to Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, and Michigan twice, and everybody beats him because they're more physical than Ohio State. Um, while the headlines about Day's outburst swirled around the national networks earlier this week, Lou Holtz decided to officially chime in on Tuesday. So after the game, Lou Holtz said, "I can understand why he did. He doesn't want to talk about Michigan being 0-2 against Michigan. He doesn't want to talk about the big game coming up against Penn State and against Michigan again." Holtz continued, "I think he's doing a tremendous job. Ohio State's a good football team. I don't think they're a great football team. He can go after me all he wants."
I
He's
understand
not
Lou
wrong.
Holtz is old,
Yeah.
but he just dropped his nuts all over Ryan Day.
It okay, so I may be dating myself a little bit here, but I think everybody knows the movie Happy Gilmore. So I mean you can just put their faces on a meme. Lou Holtz is Bob Barker, Ryan Day's Happy Gilmore, and just Lou is just beating the shit out of him.
I I love it, especially
Yeah,
because if you've listened to the show for a while, you know how much I hate Ryan Day.
yeah,
I think he is the softest coach in college football, born on third base and can't reach home.
yeah.
I
Still,
I
he's still not hung 100 on Michigan after he said that a couple years ago. Not even combined.
I was about to say not even combined.
Yeah.
Uh, I think I just not only gained a new level of respect for Lou Holtz,
Mhm.
but I think I might be a fan
I'm with you. It's hard to again, it's hard to love a Notre Dame coach or an ex Notre Dame coach, but
or an ex South Carolina coach.
yeah.
But
But again,
but
the enemy of my
damn,
enemy is my friend. There we go.
absolutely. No, I love that. Lou
Mhm.
Holtz is top two retired head coaches for me now.
Who's won?
Mark Rick.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's soft spot.
Mhm.
All right, you want to keep going?
Oh yeah, sorry. All
No, you're
right,
good.
so just getting in more into the game itself. So hopefully Notre Dame makes sure they have enough players on the field. The airplane, my bad, because they do go to Durham to face the Duke Blue Devils, who are actually tied for first place in the ACC. Notre Dame is going to bounce back. Oh no, this is you. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. So, what are your thoughts?
So I again, if let me look at the over under real quick because I don't know if either of us said it 52 and a half. Oh, hmm. So I'm actually going to go to Duke with Duke to cover, but I think Notre Dame wins. And again, it really is just all the Duke offense. Like no, Duke doesn't have a home field advantage, so to speak, although they did show out against Clemson. But Notre Dame, we know that Notre Dame, especially for games that they're not going to be super competitive prices with, they'll show up to that game and be vocal. Even well, and I will. And one other thing about the game they had against Ohio State, it was not nearly as red as everybody thought it was going to be. Like it seemed like Notre Dame had.
Well, they learned their lesson.
Yeah, I'm happy for them. I'm glad they finally
Me
did.
too.
hmm But yeah, I'm gonna go with Duke to cover here. And again, I'm not super confident on the over under for that, but Duke's in a cover, but I do think Notre Dame wins.
So, I think Notre Dame is going to bounce back big this week by beating number 17 Duke. I do think the home field environment does help Duke because their fans show up when they're good. And obviously,
Mhm.
they're good this year. They're undefeated right now. They beat a top five Clemson team. Granted, Clemson did just plummet out of the rankings after those first couple of games. But they were top five at the time. The problem for the Blue Devils, and I think this is ultimately what the game comes down to, 68th in rushing defense. And they're going to have to try to stop a running back, in my opinion, is top five in the country in Audric Estime.
Mhm.
He didn't do that well last week, but I think a part of that was coaching decisions and trying to throw the ball more versus trying to get him the ball on the outside. Um,
And
but
Ohio State's defense, I mean, for all the crap that we talked about, and I thought they were going to get exposed. They did not get exposed in that game. Ohio State's defense played fairly well
that's what
again
happens when
in
you
that
have 11
environment.
defenders on the field.
When you have enough, it's amazing what you can do out there.
Right. Um, I personally think Notre Dame wins this one by two scores, just based on Audric Estime. I'm a huge fan of his.
Mhm.
I didn't believe in him up until this year, but I really like what he's able to do with the ball in his hands, especially on the outside versus running through the middle. So I think that Notre Dame wins this one by two scores, covers the spread.
Sorry, Audric, I was not familiar with your game.
All right, Kansas at Texas, who are 16.5 point favorites, over under 61.5, which has gone down from 63.
Mhm.
Neither of us put anything here because I think it's kind of easy here. Texas at home, 16.5 point favorites against a Kansas team that has struggled at times this season.
Mhm.
I think Texas covers.
I do too. I'm gonna go. one up as well. I end up having a lot of games, a lot of picks this week. I'm hoping to get back on track, but I'm gonna go Texas as well. I'm actually gonna take them to go over that 61
Oh,
as
there you go.
well. Because Kansas, the Kansas game over last week against BYU hit for me, and that was one of my few dubs last week. So I'm gonna
Did
keep
they end up
riding
winning that game? I don't
Kansas.
remember.
Kansas did win because this is a top 25 game.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's really the only reason why I wanted to put it on there, just because it's ranked on ranked. But yeah, I'm
For
gonna
this
go
week,
Texas
because
there and the over.
yeah, I was about to say Texas is gonna just they're in DKR.
Mhm.
They're gonna win this game.
They're gonna be running
Texas.
out of those ovaries in the end zone there. It's gonna be a time.
All I'm gonna say is I love Austin. I don't want to hate on Texas. I love Austin.
But this the Longhorn logo, just them the way that I don't know that whole thing, the way that shaped out, it looks like ovaries. It's just
It could have been
odd.
done so much better.
Yeah,
It also could have been done worse,
it could have been. Yeah,
but it could have been done a lot better.
it'd been funny if they accidentally did it upside down. Wouldn't that be a bitch?
Is
It wouldn't
Texas
have
an
happened.
engineering school? But are they an architecture school?
I was just saying, like I'm sure they're a cattle judging school. I'm sure their teams won national championships between them and A&M or whatever. But
I actually think Auburn won last year's national cattle judging competition.
did they? I know they're an equestrian school.
I think Auburn won it last year.
Hmm. They hmm. They just
Random
love
facts
farms
by
and
John.
barn. They just love all things animal related, sports and animal related, or animal sport related. I don't know.
Well, they love
Competition.
animals. That's why they have three mascots.
Hmm. They're the what is it? The barn. Makes sense.
Warplanes Tigers.
Yeah. Silly stuff.
All
I
right.
don't know.
I know we're both avoiding it, but you do have to make a bandwagon team pick.
All right, so going forward, they're definitely not my bandwagon, but just paying attention to them, they're going to be my if obviously we've cursed a little bit on this episode already, but if you have kids, put earmuffs on. Fuck Texas Tech. Fuck them, fuck them, fuck them, fuck them, fuck them. I'm taking Houston. They're playing Houston in Lubbock. The over under actually went up to Texas Tech being favored by 8.5. I'm sorry, the spread is 8.5 for Texas Tech. The over under is 51. I'm taking Houston plus that 8.5. Um, because again, Houston sucks. Texas Tech's without their starting quarterback. I hope Texas Tech goes 1-11 and I'm just gonna fade them the rest of the year because they make me look stupid, which
To
isn't really hard to do,
be
but they've done it.
to be fair, last year I picked BYU as a bandwagon team in a sleeper playoff pick.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't go so hot. So in my first year with picking a bandwagon team, I didn't do well. Everybody's first, it's like a first year head coach. You got to give them a break. So
I was gonna go a different way with first, but I'm gonna not do that.
yeah, you get some grace with this being your first year having a bandwagon pick.
Yeah,
This is my second year.
you
As you
learn.
guys know, University of Washington Huskies, they are 18.5 point favorites at Arizona this weekend, over under 67.5. I think Washington wins this one easily. Arizona just isn't good. I
Mm-mm.
mean, they lost to a Mississippi State team that's probably finishing last in the West this year. It did take overtime, but they still lost to the team that's probably finishing last in the SEC West.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Washington should easily be a top five team. I don't quite understand how they're not yet. I'm taking Washington to cover the 18.5. I don't necessarily like the 67.5 spread just because Arizona's defense has shown the ability to slow guys down at times. So I'm not 100% on that one. So I'm not going to touch the over under.
I will. Somebody said, I can't remember what I was listening to, but they had said that Washington, if for those that were wondering if Washington's good, if they're just a product of a weak-ish schedule. I mean, Michigan State's trash, like we talked about, but they did beat Boise State. I think they lead the country in what was the actual stat? Game control. I think they've been up 63% of the snaps that they've played, they've been up by at least two possessions.
That's
They've been
insane.
dominating. They've been dominating. So you definitely picked the right bandwagon team.
Washington to the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm because you can't be confident in USC at this point. They until they I mean they're going to beat Colorado. We'll talk about that in a minute, but yeah, UW looks like the most complete team. Certainly out west, if not in the country at this point.
Yeah, no, I agree. You want to go ahead and get into the best bets of the week?
All right. So maybe
And you
go back.
picked more than me this week, which is saying something.
Yeah, I just got on a roll. I was looking at stuff and I was feeling good after a down couple weeks. So first one, Michigan State at Iowa. I learned my lesson about doing the over with any Iowa game. So the over under is 36 and a half. I'm going under on that. It's
I
in.
think that's a great bet with two dog shit teams.
Yeah, they um there's definitely going to be more punt yards than actual total offense in this game between the two.
That's a
There's not a doubt in my
solid
mind.
prediction.
Yeah, if I don't know if there's a prop for that on Bet US, but if there is, I'm taking it. But the under 36 and a half seems good. Like I said, Michigan State's quit. I think they just announced this afternoon, a couple hours ago, that Michigan State is indeed firing Mel Tucker with cause. So they are formally saying that they're not going to pay him the 80. I think they said $80 million that they owe him. So there's that. Iowa sucks as well. They got shut out last week against Penn State under the lights in the whiteout. No one wants to be there. They'll wave to the sick kids, but the sick kids might want to stick around for that. They might want to go play Xbox or whatever.
Yeah, the sick kids might not even be at the window at this point.
They put the blinds down when everyone's waving at them. It's like we don't want to watch this depressing shit while we're in the
Like,
hospital.
right? I'd rather get my ass beat at NCAA 14 and
by
deal with
by Dwight,
cancer than watch Iowa's offense.
who was it? It was the Ohio State quarterback. What's his face?
Was it Dwayne
God,
Haskins?
no, it wasn't Haskins. It was the Cardell Jones.
Yeah.
That whole story about him going to play with sick kids, and then like said, "Oh, you beat them by like 80." It's like, no, I actually beat him by more than that, or whatever. Like I think that was true. I don't know. I could be wrong, but that was
Either way,
always
it's a
funny.
great story.
Yeah. But all right, so yeah, under on Michigan State and Iowa under that 36 and a half. Staying in, well, I guess they're not in the Big Ten, but Iowa State and Oklahoma. What did I? Okay, anyway. All right, so I took Iowa State at Oklahoma. They're playing in Norman. Oklahoma's a 20-point favorite. I am taking Oklahoma in this case, just the entire state of Iowa. Iowa State with that Iowa State actually lost to Iowa earlier this year. It was like 10-3 or 10-7 or whatever. So way under on that. But Oklahoma, I haven't decided if they're good yet. I was kind of not too high on them to begin the season with, but they were they were able to beat Cincinnati. Granted, it wasn't like a huge win or anything like that, but like this is more of an indictment on Iowa State than anything else because they're dog shit. But Oklahoma to win by 3 touchdowns in Norman seems about right. It's gonna be a get right game for that offense. So I'm taking Oklahoma. Um,
So I agree with you 100% on that. Honestly, if it were not for you putting your picks in earlier, I looked through Bet US and I was like Oklahoma minus 20, and then I looked at the doc and saw you'd put it in there, so I didn't add it. But it was
mhm,
one of the like I'm probably putting my own money on this on Saturday.
yeah, I like. I mean, again, it's more of an indictment on Iowa State. Anything with Iowa or Iowa State, I'm going under or whoever they're playing, taking it. All right, so I got two more real quick. So USC is a 21.5 point favorite at Colorado. Taking USC to cover that, winning by at least 22 in Boulder. It's not a anti-Dion thing by any means. It's like we talked about earlier in the offseason, we're both high on Colorado. It's more of them not having Travis Hunter thing.
Yeah, I
for
mean,
me.
Colorado's already beaten their season win total. Like,
Have they? I thought it was 3.5. I
oh,
think they're
I
just
thought it
at
was
three
two
right
and a
now,
half.
right?
They they may
It could
not
be. It
have.
could have been.
They definitely will when they play Stanford and
Yeah.
either of the Arizona teams.
Mhm.
So, like, don't get it confused when we're betting against Colorado between
Mhm.
last week and this week. We both still believe that
We believe.
Colorado's a hell of a team,
Mhm.
but with these offenses in the Pac-12, it just it's a different story.
Yeah, they cannot keep up. I mean, yeah, we love Colorado, want to see them do big things, but yeah, playing against Oregon, USC, Washington, they're gonna get just the crap kicked out of them. So we believe, just not against that upper tier of the Pac-12 in its final year. All right, and then last one, going a bit outside the box here, going to the Fun Belt here. Coastal Carolina's at Georgia Southern in Statesboro. Georgia Southern's a 6.5 point favorite now. Over-unders at 64. I do think Georgia Southern covers that. I think they can win by a touchdown, if not more than that. And I think that I wanted to go with the over there too. You know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. No, I'm not. Just kidding. I'm not doing it. Um, I thought against it. I have way too many picks. Um, Unofficially, I'll go over, but not officially. But Georgia Southern, I do think is going to cover here. Their offense has been incredible. Georgia Southern, that is, when they don't turn over the ball, which they've done a pretty good job of outside of the Wisconsin game 2 weeks ago. Um, but the Coastal Carolina has a mid offense and a mid defense statistically. Georgia Southern has a dynamic offense when they take care of the ball, and their defense is actually 32nd in the country, so it's not bad considering who they've played. Overall, they allow 32. I'm sorry, they allow 18.2 points a game to opposing offenses. And like I said, Georgia Southern covers that 6.5. Just one other or two other little things about it. I think the Sun Belt's by far the best G5 conference this year. I don't know how
I
you
don't
can
think
really
there's
argue
much of
that.
an argument.
Yeah, and the Sun Belt, whatever you want to call it, call it either or. It's going to be won by one of the GSUs. It's either going to be Georgia Southern or Georgia State. Georgia State is on the cusp of being ranked. Um, so shout
Deserve
out
to
to them.
be ranked.
Yeah, they should be absolutely. I think I don't know what they are in the receiving votes for like the AP or coaches, but they're
They're
knocking on the door.
they're in the top 30. I
Okay.
remember that. I think it's 27, 28, something like that. But no, I definitely think Georgia State deserves to be ranked.
hmm it's gonna be the Sun Belt's gonna be won by one of the GSU teams, but in my opinion, I'm hoping it's the real GSU, Georgia Southern. Get
Southern
after that
State.
ass. Let's go.
No, that's actually another one of those where if I'd gotten to it first, I probably would have taken that spread as well.
hmm
Um,
Yeah, it's less than a touchdown.
yeah.
Southern can do that.
So for mine, I did kind of have to dig deep on a couple of these because Mike got to it first and kind of
What you
stole
should
some of my picks. I still
what you
might put
should
money on him.
what you should do is just fade me for all your best bets because apparently I've been off.
The problem is I think you took my strategy this week,
Oh,
which is what it is. But my first pick, Oregon minus 27.5 at Stanford. And it really comes down to Stanford is bad and Oregon is good.
mhm.
Like Stanford is very bad. A few weeks ago, USC really could have scored 70 if they had tried. Caleb Williams only took one or two snaps in the second half of that game because they'd scored 49 in the first half. Um, and I really think there's no reason to believe that Oregon doesn't dominate this game after what they did to Colorado last week because I think Colorado is better than Stanford.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely.
so 27.5 to me that's pretty easy to lay those points taking Oregon. Next one is USC at Colorado over 73.5. This is
Ooh,
probably the one I'm least confident on of my best bets, but USC game totals have averaged 75 points this season through the games that they've won so far. So I'm going to take the over here, and like I said, I'm the least confident about it, but I think Travis Hunter being out does hurt quite a bit.
But this is the best quarterback that USC's played against this year too. So I mean,
Correct.
with not having his best weapon, I mean, Colorado could still put up points, or at least they have the potential of doing that against a suspect USC defense.
No, I agree, and that's kind of why I did it because if I mean, let's just say 56-24, like I don't think that's out of the
Ooh,
question.
yeah.
And that the lack of confidence in USC's defense and the confidence in their offense is kind of why I picked that one. Um, Next one is one that I am extremely confident in. That's Penn State at Northwestern over 46. That's an
Okay.
insanely low spread for a Penn State team that's scored a lot of points in all of their games so far this year.
Mm.
Um, we'll see how I feel on Saturday morning. May take Penn State to cover the spread here. It is 27 points, but Northwestern's not good.
Mm.
And Penn State, I think, is one of the two best teams in the Big Ten. So I may take that spread. I'll let y'all know on Saturday. But I really like the over at 46 because Penn State has scored a minimum of 30 points in their worst game this season, and that was against an Illinois team that had a really great defense last year. Still have a lot of holdovers from that. And they also didn't necessarily play their starters towards the end of that game. So I think Penn State at Northwestern over 46. Really like that one.
Mm.
And then Mizzou at Vandy over 53.5.
Are you sure about that? Didn't we talk about taking Missouri on anything?
We did. We also talked about taking Vandy on anything. But here's the loophole. This is not that I believe in either team. It's that I don't believe in either team's defense. That's the loophole. So neither
Two
team's
wrongs
good
make
on
a right.
defense. And, I'm sure we all remember when in week 0 when Vandy gave up 28 points to a Hawaii team whose only wins this year have come against an FCS Albany team who they still gave up a few points to. And they gave up 20 points to Albany, who's an FCS team, and then they beat New Mexico State, who is very easily, you can make an argument for they are the worst FBS team in college football this year.
Yeah.
Mizzou has given up 27 points in both of their last two games. I'm not 100% confident on this, but I am confident that both their defenses kind of suck.
That's fair.
And that's where I'm at. Once again, I may also take the Mizzou minus 13.5 on Saturday. I'm honestly hoping it drops maybe a point or so to before the game kicks off. But that'll all be on our graphic that gets put out on Saturday morning at nothing.finer.pod on Instagram. You ready to call the dogs?
Let's call the dogs.
All right, guys, this is the segment we're doing every week, as we've talked about multiple times. Give us your wildest, most ridiculous WWE style promo for the game each week. Once again, Caleb Tillman called in at the phone number 678-465-8020. We would love to have some more participation there, but here is this week's Calling the Dogs.
First of all, I just got to say, guys, it's lonely in this voicemail box. Can somebody else please call and leave some voicemails and cut some promos and have some fun with it? Because I am tired of carrying this segment myself. Y'all come join me. It's a lot more fun than it looks. Now, on to Auburn. Auburn with their brand new head coach named Hugh Freeze. A very fitting last name, Freeze, because Brian Harsin left that offense completely frozen solid and unable to do absolutely anything. Funny how that works. But listen up. Their offense wouldn't be able to do anything anyway the way this defense operates. You can tell me about UAB all you want to. I think that was a fluke. You know what? It doesn't matter. Shut your mouth, Jabroni. This Georgia defense is elite, and this Auburn offense wasn't going to be able to do anything against them no matter what. So don't even give me anything of that. But listen, Hugh Freeze, there's a chance in this game that you have. Auburn has a chance in this game, and their biggest opportunity to win this game comes down to the answer to our unknowns. Because listen, I don't know if Carson Beck is going to handle his first real road environment well as the starter. I don't know if Ladd McConkey is going to be out there playing and catching passes like he should be. And I don't know if Hugh Freeze is a better coaching hire than a literal monkey's anus would have been. But there are two things that I do know about this game, as surely as I know that Gary Danielson has never once pleased a woman in his entire life. And those two things are this. I like driving in my truck, and Auburn sucks.
All right, guys, if you weren't able to hear it, whether it's through the live, whatever the case is, go check out the audio version on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever platform you're going to. It's at about the hour and 28-minute mark. Caleb Tillman, once again, with another banger. I was literally laughing out loud over here.
I was reading the transcript in the email because Google Voice does that. If you haven't looked at it, you need to go look at it because I'll listen to it later when the audio version comes out. But I can only imagine.
The thing is, with what he said, I'm sure that the actual transcript was accurate, and you just don't want to believe it.
They call Ladd McConkey Latin McConkey.
Okay, well that's not accurate.
No, but there's some other things in there. It's good. Good. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, it's a good time. We would love to get some more people in this Calling the Dog segment. Once again, that phone number, 678-465-8020. Closing it out here, guys. Follow the Instagram at nothing.finder.pod. The Twitter is at finderpod. Facebook and YouTube, search us there. Rate and review the show 5 stars. Send us a screenshot. We will send you a sticker. We are going to be at Starling Yard in Savannah for the game this Saturday with the Savannah area alumni group. So if you are in the Savannah area or just want to come hang out with us, come hang out. We'll be there with some stickers, maybe even some koozies. Not 100% on that, but we may have some koozies. Some of the black ones, not necessarily the slim can ones. But as always, guys, remember there is nothing finer in the land
than a drunk obnoxious Georgia fan.